Hello, everybody. Welcome back to B-Tech Philosophers, episode 56. 56, I got it right.
I've got the shit chair, man.
I never get the episode number right. But here, it's me, Michael Odewale, Elliot Still. We got special guests in the building. Ed Knight, everybody, with the asthma pump.
Host of Slam Country, a very, very funny podcast.
I haven't seen an asthma pump in years.
I'm keeping the ventilating industry alive.
Really? I used to have asthma as a kid, but I beat it.
You beat it.
I just
The allegation.
Just manifestation.
Did you have to ring a little bell at the?
I was like, fuck. I manifested.
I beat asthma.
I beat asthma. You ring a little bell, everyone comes out, a load of wheezing kids trying to clap.
Yeah.
I made it out, man. How long you had asthma?
Since I was a kid, I've just sort of like it's gone. It's more well controlled now, but I smoke and stuff, which is just bad for it.
Yeah, I've got asthma.
Do you know famous people with asthma? David Beckham.
David Beckham.
That's all I had.
And all of Liverpool was just team.
No, Liverpool. That's allegation that they're on roids and
They're
stuff.
all juicing.
I
Yeah,
reckon. That's
I think,
not.
oh shit, my headphones are just. Oh.
they're all taking. Yeah, they're all like puffing.
I'm having technical
every game.
issues all over the place here.
Just
My
use it
bad.
without
No, there we go. We're good.
But why? I don't believe that because why would that not just be found out straight away?
I think
Also, they're really shit right now.
the drugging, the doping in sport is better than the catching. There's more money in hiding the doping than there is catching the dope. You don't gain. There's no money in catching athletes taking drugs. There is money in taking drugs.
I thought that it was all like I thought the margins at the top now were so slim that all the kind of what you would consider like a performance enhancing edge are like all sorts of like experimental super proteins that they just send someone to your house and pump you full of while you're playing PlayStation.
Yeah,
It was just like diet controls and stuff like that. My cousin used to play for the under-21s for a Premier League team, and he's like, as soon as he started.
Zaha.
He's my cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it. I see there was something.
Yeah. No, but it was Palace, and
Yeah.
as soon as he started, it was like he was
Being a
on
white
like
boy in Palace is tough.
super strict diet, like super fucking. He was like on what they call intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
and he had to have like he had to have like 8,000 calories a day, but only between like 12 and 2
Wow,
p.m. or whatever.
8,000?
It was something crazy. Like it was huge because he was doing like so much exercise. His macros were checked so much. It was really crazy. I had no idea it was that like
Yeah.
that mad, even for like the under 21s and stuff.
Do you reckon they make it as hard as that to sort of at the final stage of breaking in, that they make it even harder and harder to see who's really about it?
I don't know, maybe, but it's just like, yeah, because nowadays to play at the top level, especially in like a top league, you have to, I guess you just have to not like non-stop when you hear about every footballer has like a personal chef and stuff who just cooks all their meals to like an incredibly specific,
Yeah.
and like when you're at home, you just have like icing, cryo and massage machines just non-stop.
It makes it all the more ridiculous when you got people like at the games online be like, "Oh, he's not trying hard enough." I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
he's
Right.
at the top of his game. Like,
Since doing stand-up comedy and doing and meeting like professional athletes through like jiu-jitsu and MMA and stuff, I've realized I don't have a fucking clue what I'm talking about when it comes to sport. And then I go to the Palace and I sit there and I listen to people critique a game, and I'm like,
Yeah.
we were talking about this on the Patreon, like Andrew Mensah knows a lot about football. Have you ever we were saying this on the Patreon, if you ever say something to Mensah and he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You suddenly realise I don't have a clue what I'm talking about, and he only has a slight more clue of what he's talking about than me.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a professional footballer, but he still has an insight into
I've never really spoken to him about football. I met him for 3 seconds briefly at a gig once. But yeah, when I spoke to my cousin about it, I was like asking him questions that I thought were smart, and it's just like I know fuck all about.
well, it's like playing with somebody. If you ever played with somebody at a national league and you managed to play 7-a-side with them, they're like, oh my gosh, like the golf here is incredible. And then you imagine the golf between a national league and a Premier League footballer. And an average Premier League footballer and Lionel Messi, and you're like, your mind's just.
It makes what Jack Wilshere was able to do probably even more impressive. he was like able to smoke 20 Marlboro Reds before every game, and still play with the big boys.
Bro, that guy is like the proper like Zanti footballer, and
I love it.
he was going on like a lad's holiday. Like when they were doing like one of those footballer camps where they go away, do a bonding experience, that someone was having to keep an eye on Wilshere.
Well, that's how the Leicester team, they bonded, just fucking strippers in Thailand.
Well, that's how they got in trouble.
Yeah,
that's why they won the league that year.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they had to sack the manager, didn't they? They had to sack the manager, brought in Ranieri.
It makes it even more impressive that like people in the 70s and stuff were able to like smoke fags and drink pints on the touchline at half time and still be like the most prolific goal scorer of all time.
I reckon I could get in a 1965 football team. I mean, maybe not for politically.
We were doing on the Patreon, right? We were talking about what kind of footballer would you be, and Mike decided he wanted to be the first openly bisexual footballer. Turns out, just because he wanted the plaudits of being a gay footballer, but without any of the gayness.
Right.
So he wanted everyone to be like he's very brave and like cheering his name, but then to not actually do any of the gay stuff.
I would say Messi. I'd want to be Messi.
You'd want to be Messi?
Yeah, I want to be Messi. I mean, like, I think that I was thinking recently, actually, I thought I would make an amazing 1970s footballer.
Yeah.
And I think I would think that until I got hit with the leather ball.
Yes.
And then I would be like, no, I can't.
And to get like a yellow card back then, you'd have to do like some hell in the cell. You'd
have to like
jump off the goal, flying elbow someone.
And just like watching, looking out and seeing like those old football grounds, you've got like 50,000 like men with Chelsea smiles in full suits looking at you and smoking a fag. You'd be like, man, the pressure would be so high.
Fucking hell.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then you like win a trophy, but you still have to go back to the mine. Like
exactly. Yeah. You're like working in one of those old-fashioned market Marks and Spencers on the weekend.
When the documentary comes out, he wasn't just a fantastic centre half; he was a brilliant postman.
Exactly.
He didn't just deliver good letters; he could also deliver a goal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and he was on 3 shillings a week.
Yeah, I went to this market for Christmas. I bought my dad just part of what I bought my dad. I was at this market and there was this guy selling like old football programs, and I found a program for a testimonial game, Palace versus Bruges, from like 1962, and it was crazy because it had in the program all the Bruges players and also what their other jobs were, because none of them were full-time.
Wow.
It was so weird. It's like this guy is a clerk at a bank as well as being number 10 for RFC Bruges.
Fucking
It's so weird.
We're talking about the pressure of things. Yeah, we talked about this just off pod. We did like the JFL auditions just for last auditions.
Yeah, we did.
I don't know if we'd like to say.
What's JFL?
So. Just for
those who don't know.
Just for laughs. That's why I said the just for laughs.
And it's
tax deductible by now.
it's in Montreal, like a famous.
It's a very well known comedy festival, like sort of probably that and the Fringe.
Yeah, I think
so. The 2 biggest.
But Just for Laughs seems more like a slick professional affair.
Yes, you have to be invited to Just for Laughs.
Yeah.
You can't be a student improv troupe who give it a go.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what 90% of the Fringe is.
It's like Melbourne Comedy Festival is largely run by like one company who looks after the entire thing.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like it seems that Just for Laughs might be a bit more like that.
Yeah. There's no crime scene improvisation at Just for Laughs. Well, maybe.
Maybe.
How did your auditions go?
It was. We were saying this off pod. What do you want to say?
Good for what the gig was.
Yeah.
It was in like an all bar one. Like there were 2 of them. We were on the 3 p.m. one, and there was one right before us at 1 p.m. And so it's like it's been ages since I've done 6 minutes. I think that was the hardest thing. A lot of us were talking about that before. It's 8 comics and an MC in an hour-long show, so it was like really like bang, bang, bang. But yeah, it was all right. It was like the audience was much nicer than I expected them to be. I thought it was going to be like when you do like a free Fringe lineup show at like 1 p.m. and it's like, what the fuck?
Did you guys come up doing comedy competitions?
Yes,
right.
A couple of them, yeah.
Right. So did it take you back to that? 'Cause I used to hate that thing where you're like wanting another comic to do bad just so you can do well. Because I used to have that when I was young. I'd be coming up like, I just want you to do better. Because in my head I was like, maybe that'll make my set seem better.
I think I didn't have that for the Just for Laughs thing.
I did.
Did you? I
made it quite clear as well.
He was like staring everyone down before they went on. It was more like, because everybody there, unlike when you do comedy competitions, when you're like starting out and stuff, everybody there largely, everyone's like a pro, and you've known them for like 10 years, and it was more like there were lots of people I hadn't seen for a while. I hadn't seen Athena for ages, and that was nice and stuff. Or I hadn't seen like Eleanor for ages and shit. And so it's nice to just go like, what are we all doing here?
But sometimes you surprise yourself with like those feelings come up again. You're like, oh, I thought I was past that, but them.
I got more nervous than I thought I would.
Right.
Yeah.
I was nervous before it.
I was when I went on stage. I realised like fuck, like I'm not in my usual like chilled
headspace.
man.
Yeah. Also, I think it's also because you're like you're hyper aware. Although you are with sort of like friends and colleagues that you've known for a while, you are all hyper aware that you're all there to like impress somebody, and nobody wants to have a bad gig in front of esteemed colleagues. It's like you don't want to be the one that like bombs at that gig. Do you know what I mean? But it's not. It doesn't really matter. Nobody cares.
Is it endless slots? Or are you all fighting for one place?
I don't know. Who knows? But I just to touch on what you just said there. Like, I feel that, and I felt that when I went and did these gigs in Leger, and this is something that's completely in my own head as a comic, but like I'm more of like internet comedy, Instagram kind of person, and everyone else there was like live at the Apollo or like on TV shows. So I feel like I've got to represent a little bit harder because I'm like not that. I'm like more of a like build it on my own back comic, which I enjoy doing. But I'm not like recognised in terms of the main industry as good.
No, but nobody else there is doing material about like Daniel with the white vans and stuff.
What do you mean?
You've got to do like all the young people material.
Yeah.
That's how I feel like that sometimes too. But like, I think it's like
that's an old reference, bro.
Thanks, like you got that.
I don't get it.
You remember that show?
Remember that Vine? Damn, Daniel.
Oh,
okay,
yes.
That is nowhere near modern anymore.
The best compliment I've ever had is from another comic telling me that they thought my material was like internet-y. I liked that.
Oh, good.
Do you find that when you go like abroad and stuff, like I have better shows like in different countries to crowds our age than I do to like older crowds in this country?
Yes, that's why I'm at Top Secret all the time, because obviously I've got 10 years in the game, so I'm of some level of good, but I am also performing to people who are around about my age, which I didn't grow up with. I had to go to these off the curb gigs that were full of 40-year-olds who didn't want to see me.
Guys, we're young vets.
We're young vets.
We are.
Well, this is the thing I was thinking about as well. It's weird because like you talk about all the online stuff. I've been doing a bit more of that recently, and obviously everybody wishes they got into
very. I like your stuff, man.
Your stuff. You,
me and Paddy.
Paddy Young, you, Paddy Young, Horatio, and Andrew Cohen are the two groups of the best sketch makers in Britain at the moment.
Oh, come on, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
100%, man. But you should do more stuff about people from Clapham.
Okay, I will do. Yeah. So, but what's weird about it is that like because we're all young, but we've all been going a long time. I was talking to somebody recently about all these videos and stuff, and they were asking me what like the online landscape was like when I started, and I realized it didn't exist. Like I didn't have Instagram until I was like a year into doing comedy.
Yeah.
Yes.
It wasn't the same. Like I think there's for people that started maybe 2, 3, 4 years after us, there's an expectation from when you very first started that you would have to be across everything, socials and stuff.
Very good.
I feel like it's something I've had to learn rather than something I kind of innately had,
Yeah, well, I was always the route to success. What was deemed success is you do Edinburgh, you then get you then do the ITV2 shows. If you survive them, you then get to do the BBC shows. If you're liked on them, you get to become a regular, and then you start touring.
Yeah, there seems like there was like a funnel, like a fairly. I understood that there was a fairly linear type of progress in comedy in this country when I started, which is basically that, like, have a couple of good Edinburghs and like do shitloads of open spots, as many clubs as you can, and work your way up to 20s and stuff like that, But it's so different now. I think that's a very good thing.
You think it's a good thing?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing because it's not like the other thing doesn't still exist too.
Yeah.
But,
the other thing, trying to compete, it's quite funny watching that other thing now. Someone who's on TV a lot but doesn't sell tickets now have to try cross online. And they can't quite get it. It's quite funny when you see that, when you see someone like not quite understand online, and they're trying to. And the cool thing with online, like the reason this podcast is doing well and stuff, and the main compliment we get on it, as well, a lot of things we get slagged off about it, a lot of abuse is it's authentic. there's an authenticity with it. Whereas like I think people now see TV as unauthent. Like you look at anything, like if something's on the TV mainstream, it's just seen as mainstream media, and that's not quite a slanderous term. Like whether it be news or entertainment. Unless it's like a sitcom, you're seen as part of like this mass conglomerate. Like even look at like Gary Lineker on The Weekend, what's happened with him. He's seen as, he just presents a fucking football show, but he's still seen as like a representative of the mainstream establishment.
Yeah, it's very strange. I think as more people kind of get their sort of their regular entertainment online, there's like I remember when like YouTube and stuff was like incredibly homemade. You won't remember this, Lucas, but we used to watch something called Smosh.
Dude, I love Smosh. I liked your story that you posted.
Thanks,
about
mate. Thank you. Yeah, we all love. Well, hey, listen, we all love Smosh. and
I'm sitting as a man who has no idea what.
You guys, you got to check out the man with a box for a head.
It's just like the annoying orange or something. Remember when the annoying orange was a thing?
Had Potter Puppet Pals. Remember that? Yeah.
Who was the guy who ended up doing a film with Pixie Lot?
What the hell is that? Pixie Lot, that's an artist.
Yeah, she was a singer. She had that. Remember that guy? His name was Fred.
Fred. Oh my God.
And he just had a high-pitched voice.
He was the guy. Fred was the guy.
Fred. And now he's Fred again.
Shane Dawson. Fred again. Yeah.
Is it actually Fred again?
No. Fred again.
I think you're completely correct. There is like the more a lot of stuff succeeds online by encouraging like willfully or otherwise parasocial relationships with their listener base or their viewer base or whatever. I think a lot of people not just but have become used to the fact that content is like sort of way more personal and seems like it's homemade and like more of a direct line to the people you like and stuff.
Do you like that? You think that's good?
I'm not sure. I don't like it, me personally, for myself, with these videos and stuff that me and Paddy have been doing. It's the first time I feel like I've had any kind of exposure online, and I've been getting some strange messages. Yeah, you get some, you get people interacting with you in a way. Like occasionally, you do an hour show at the Fringe or something like that, and one would come up to you and start enthusiastically talking to you as if they knew you personally because they'd watched you. Yeah. It feels like you're getting that just all the time.
Your videos, like that's based on the skill of the writing and the performance. You're still giving people a work of art. It's not just you being like, hey guys.
Oh sure, hey, you're my best friend or whatever. Yeah. But also I think in a way it is like, we're still doing it at like it's incredibly lo-fi, and we're doing it like at the flat, so it's like it is kind of intimate in a way. There's no green screen. It's not like formatted like a two-shot or like,
seeing someone's living room.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's kind of like that.
Because like Ali, because I like stuff as well. I think Ali's really good and stuff. And like, but Ali's like, he's a very good comedian as well. I've always wondered, like, I wonder what some of like Ali's audiences make of his, because like he got in trouble over the weekend for being like just on what was it? All I Do Is Fail. Where he was, because they put up a clip where he was like, on International Women's Day, I'm going to finally come out as a feminist. Or so it was just like a funny little bit.
Right.
And all the comments were like people taking it seriously and stuff. And I felt, whereas I was getting shit about the cyclists, my brand, I can tell someone like, I hope you get run over. But Ali's nice. Like Ali, I was saying, like
the sketches are quite inoffensive, just every day in the office.
They're not like, he's not being an arsehole on them. So then when he puts up a clip where he's playing a little bit of an arsehole, like the abuse he was getting, like people like, you've let me down. I'm like, dude,
exactly.
You don't know this guy.
Like, expectation management is very, very strange. It's very difficult as well when like Paddy and I did a live show and then we uploaded this first video and it went crazy. And the show, it was meant to be just two of us doing like work in progresses. And then the video went crazy and the show sold out. And we started kind of really getting in our own heads. Like, none of these people know that we're stand-up comedians. Can we still do a stand-up comedy show? But yeah, like last night, I put up a stupid video that I made about the Queen, where like I green screened out the Queen's dress and replaced it with that guy that dances around, kind of like skirt dibbity dup. I got loads of DMs. I got this one DM. It's so funny. from some guy that messaged me before, like giving me advice on what to do in the videos with Paddy, and he was like, didn't like that one about the Queen, lack of class, I am. Like, fuck are you talking about, you maniac?
You get people who are, I got this over the weekend, like fans of my dad going to my dad. I used to be a fan of your comedy, but your son.
That's mental.
They were so upset about what I said that they cancelled tickets to see my dad.
That's really funny. That's so funny. And people are going to do that with me and Paddy. Paddy's going to start getting my strays, I think.
Yeah.
Paddy's going to start, because Paddy's the innocent one in our videos and I'm the naughty boy. So he's going to start, I'll be okay, but if Paddy starts acting up, then he's the one that's going to get extremely cancelled.
It's interesting something to think about, because people always make fun of people, be like, I'm a brand.
Right, yes.
Any human being who refers themselves as a brand, they always get like, ugh. But it's something to think about in terms of, it's like any company, if McDonald's were like, all right, get some cheeseburgers, you cunts. They want to be like, it's not really what you've been promoting. It's inconsistent.
We're bringing out the new McCunt.
You know what I mean? Like,
buy the McCunt.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's the same with a person who's kind of presenting themselves in the same way. If you're not with what you've been presenting, I think, like, as much as be like, people are being ridiculous, it is a bit natural for them to be like, oh, this is not what you sold to me.
Yes.
What I believe you sold to me.
Right.
This is
What
the
you
thing.
believe you sold to
me. I might ask you to cut this out of the edit. I know that's annoying, but like this.
Wait, pause.
Pause.
We don't.
Wait.
1 second. Cool.
Go on, put your glasses on.
During the pandemic, I put up some pictures on Instagram of myself and my girlfriend, and somebody I work with at the time. I lost lots of followers and shit over it, and somebody that I worked with at the time was like, you should not put pictures of your girlfriend up on social media, because loads of people who follow you because they think you're single, which is kind of like an ego boost in a way, because I never really thought of myself like that. But also,
you're a sex symbol, bro.
Yeah, people love these quacked up white boys. You know what I'm talking about?
They do. A skinny white boy doesn't look like he's been sleeping.
Skinny? Oh my goodness. I'm the Morpheus of comedy.
Wilfred Zaha's cousin.
Yeah, Wilfred Zaha's cousin. That's why they love me. No, but I'd never thought of myself mainly in the way of like, of that before. I perhaps naively thought that, like, I saw like my social media accounts as like personal accounts and stuff like that.
They thought you thought they liked you for your content.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's sort of not just that, but I think, at the time I didn't have a huge amount of followers and stuff.
So you think they were like, it was put to you that they were unfollowing because they were under the guise you were single?
That's what that person said to me. Though, you shouldn't put up, which is crazy to me. That's like,
I agree, but I also think it's probably because you're right, like personal account shit. Like
loads of people just go,
loads of people follow you for your content, and then they see a picture of you and your girlfriend, and they're like, "What the fuck am I following this for?" Like,
is that too right? Yeah.
And it all like I've noticed, like one of the reasons I don't like I mentioned Darcy on this podcast all the time, and she's like, "Oh, you don't put up too many pictures of us on Instagram," and I'm like, "Yeah, because I don't want some weird people fucking. I want to tag you in, so her account's private. I don't want people fucking trying to follow you, because that happens with people I know's partners in comedy. Like, because I talk about her on this, people then assume they have a relationship with her, and she doesn't want any limelight whatsoever. And I'm like, you'll start and it's weird, and it's.
I think Adam Rowe had to do something like that. He had to address because
his special. He said he really reiterated in the special, don't fucking stuff.
So and so the moment you start blurring those lines of your brand, then it gets a bit.
This is the thing. People like. I just think it's really like. People like made that there was that big list the other day. Someone made a graph of like who in comedy is going out with who and stuff.
That was fucking weird.
It's just like I think that like I'm very, very grateful to have the followers I have who enjoy my stuff. It was really incredibly, immensely gratifying to have a group of people who are delighted to see something that you make. And not just like something that you make, but all the stuff I make, I think is really funny.
It's really
and
good.
I put a lot of work into it, and I when people respond to it, it's genuinely like, when me and Paddy sold this show out, like I was so happy, because it's like that kind of thing's never happened to me before, where we just announced that we're doing it, and then the next day it's fucking sold out or whatever.
What?
It's a crazy feeling, So it is nice, but there are trade-offs with like how you. just how.
Yeah, you're quite a deep thinker, Ed. Like you're like one of the deepest people I know.
Thank you.
Like in terms of
say that about me.
Morpheus vibe.
No, I've come to know you a bit better than I know Ed, and I can honestly say what a fucking bad judge of character I am. Boy, do I get things wrong. So don't take this as like you don't want to hear this from me.
I won't put it on the CV straight away.
No,
when we used to hang out less, you're like, Michael, you're really deep.
No, after hours of podcasting and the innocuous shit that I have to listen to.
But I do think it's worth thinking about as well, because it's like especially after, me and Paddy have only been doing these videos and stuff. I only sort of invoke them so much purely because they've just done better than anything I've ever done like that. We've only been doing them for the last few months, and like my following is still relatively small, but it's like really ballooned for what I'm used to, and like it's something I enjoy doing. It's something that's worth doing, but it's also, if it's going to play such a big part in the stability of my career going forward, you really do have to think about this stuff.
As young vets, is what I'm going to call us.
Young vets.
Why were we so slow to like do shit like online and stuff?
Because it wasn't the way forward when we started.
No, it just wasn't.
You had to. We were raised as like, you go to a meeting with a production company, you go to a meeting with a thing. The do-it-yourself thing was slightly coming in, and it was looked down upon. I made this point on Jack Skipper's podcast the other day, right? Do you know who the first person I saw genuinely get cancelled in comedy who shouldn't have been cancelled was?
Who?
Dapper Laughs. Dapper Laughs got cancelled for the same thing that people pretend to be cancelled about nowadays, but genuinely, if Dapper Laughs got cancelled for what he did what he did then, now nobody would bat an eyelid. It was, he got cancelled, remember, because someone filmed a gig. This is why people had a problem with his work.
I can't remember anything about it. I can't remember one thing.
He did some like funny vines and sketches in that. He was a guy who ran open mic nights.
Well, we could debate whether they were funny.
So he had some funny videos. And then he came like immense popular, and then it was all like, it was like someone outside fucking trying to get you in a nightclub doing stand up.
Yeah.
And then he'd barely done any gigs. Suddenly he's gigging in front of 400 or 500 people who are there to see him, who are all shouting his catchphrases at him, right?
Yeah.
Which is a nightmare of a position to be in. Regardless of what you think, that's you don't want that audience, but you want the money. Like you want, and you also want the credit of I'm selling out gigs. He then got recorded in a video doing a callback to something he did earlier that wasn't in the video, saying that a woman in a row was gagging for a rape. She laughed.
Oof.
Yeah. But like he was doing a bit anti-rape, and then he said she laughed.
Yeah.
The video got put online of the minute bit, and everyone was like, you need to cancel him. And ITV2, who'd given him a TV show, were like, we're not renewing it for a second series because of this video, which isn't why they weren't renewing it. They weren't renewing it because the show wasn't doing well, and they threw him under the bus.
I think I mean, like I don't remember anything about it. Purely going on what you've told me, purely going off what you told me. I think that however it came about, thank God that man's not gigging. I think all I remember about Daft Laughs is that he was a fucking weird sexist and dog shit at comedy. Like that's all I remember.
Yeah, but he has the right to be dog shit, and he has the right to be dog shit and get better. Like I'm
not mourning the loss.
No, but I'm saying like in terms of this is the thing. If I'm going to sit there and be like, I don't think certain people should get cancelled, or whatever cancelling is, it's come this weird term now. I've got to defend him as well as I've got to defend my heroes. You know what I mean? Like
I know what you're getting at.
And I was a cunt to him as well online because I saw all the other comics wanted to do it and I wanted to be mates with them. And then I found out they're just as fucking... A Dapper Laughs is probably less fucking gropey than some of the people online who were going after him.
I get what you mean, but I do think that with somebody like Dapper Laughs, in his case, he made his career off like... I mean, it's not... anything new. In fact, the kind of thing that he did, like trajectory-wise, we've seen loads and loads, where people start out online, get really big, and then get offered all this stuff, like TV shows, live tours, that they cannot convert on.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. But with somebody like Dapper Laughs, who I think... I'm sorry, I'm taking the shades off.
No, go ahead.
Serious time.
Serious time.
I think that that he specifically... he made his fame on Vine doing like lad culture kind of debatably tongue-in-cheek sexist stuff, but he also very crucially, as far as I remember, indulged in all the debate and backlash around it to the extreme. He did not just make his videos and then when people came out and said this is extremely disrespectful to women or whatever, go, oh, I'm really sorry, this is just the type of humor I've grown up with or whatever. He went out of his way to double down on the cheeky chappy, like, I know that I'm not supposed to be saying this stuff now, but I'm still going to say it. Wink, wink.
Hey, let's not.
But also,
mirrors are being.
Hey man, I can't buy the hand.
But then, like, going on not just like in his routines, but going on TV to debate it on fucking Question Time
in a turtleneck.
That's when he did the apology, didn't he?
I don't like. I just don't like his stuff. I don't like the ethos behind his stuff. I think he's a pretty slimy guy. The kind of the weird thing is that people are normally dog shit at comedy at an open mic night with two people when nobody's looking. They don't have their first ever gigs at the Clapham Grand. Do you know what I mean? He tried to convert and he fucked it up. He broke his ankle. He broke his own ankles.
Do you know what? Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Well made.
But what I don't understand,
as I was saying, gagging for a rape, I did think, maybe
it sounds bad. It sounds really bad, Elliot.
Maybe I should have thought before.
8 years removed. It still sounds. It's not aged well.
I went, do you know what? I think I can't be like, hey, it was post Me Too. It was pre Me Too.
I would say if I saw somebody do that, I would be quite shocked. Even in 20, I would be like, okay.
I saw a comic one time not long ago do a bit where he asked someone where they were going the next day. They said the place they were going, and it's like, I get offended at things. So he actually said the words, "Well, enjoy being gang raped by the locals," and I was like,
"Fucking hell, that's awful.
Hell,
that's
man.
So bad."
Like, I was like, "Dude,
how did that go in a room?"
Fucking slayed.
That's awful. That's so grim.
Like, I was stood there at the back, staggered. Yeah. Like staggered. But
I've also been there many times before. I used to talk to comedians who would be like, funny's funny. When I was younger, people would be like, funny's funny. If the room likes it, it's just funny. It doesn't matter about your moralism or whatever. But then I actually started doing rooms, and I'm like, these people aren't. They don't know what's going on. I've done enough rooms where somebody's tried to like. I remember doing one massive room where I saw loads of like really awful stuff slay, and I was emceeing, and a stag in a chicken costume got on stage and tried to punch me in the head, and I was like, actually, I don't think maybe this guy's wrong about what's funny.
You're like a real life Peter Griffin, bro.
Yes, yeah. I got in a fight with a giant chicken. Yeah, on stage at the Cardiff Glee. Yeah, it was crazy.
I couldn't imagine you emceeing. And I
the Cardiff Glee.
I love your stand-up. You're a very clever, deep thinker. Your style of comedy is very good. I wouldn't then go, hey, do you know who needs to MC Cardiff Glee?
Oh, mate, yeah.
None of us should be MC club.
Here's the thing. You're completely correct about that, because it was. I remember I got that gig. I only emceed the Cardiff Glee once. I've done it at Birmingham a few times. It went well and stuff. But the Cardiff Glee, I think I got the gig, if not like on the day, then the night before. It was a Saturday. It was like a bank holiday weekend, and it was also the day of the Tottenham-Liverpool Champions League final.
Oh, wow, okay.
Everybody in the room was watching the game on their phones on the table and already fucking hammered by the time I got on there. It was like it was a war zone. Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, I just I've seen some ridiculous stuff. Especially sometimes when you go to a gig in like Europe and stuff, you'll see some of the maddest things you've ever seen in your life.
They're imitating the American.
Yes,
and they think they've seen like Bill Burr. They don't realise the skill he's harnessed over 30 years of doing comedy.
Yeah,
and then they think, I'll just go out and say something horrible about women or horrible about race.
And this is how I felt about Taboo. Like, you don't understand that. I don't think that there are things you can't joke about, because that's like everybody is different. Everybody has different experiences. I mean, on a different level, I used to get this like when I was younger, I'd make a joke about something. I remember one particular. I had a routine in my like 2018 show about something or other. It was like a serious topic, and I had one group of people like. During my shows, like shouting out and really having a go at me about it, and about how I thought it was appropriate to do stand-up comedy about this, and I was like, this is about something that's happened to me. I'm not just like a completely objective observer of life. I'm not like this stuff has happened to me as well, like that's why I'm talking about it. I think everybody's different. I don't think anything's impossible to joke about, but I do think that so many people who just aren't good enough get confused between, and that sounds harsh, but who just aren't good enough at comedy get confused between saying like delicately or skillfully joking about taboo subjects and just saying awful bigoted things.
Oh, you need that room to get it right, though.
Yeah, you do.
I'm still 27, right? So I'm young. I'm still gonna get things wrong and fall over that line.
Yes,
yeah, bro. Those figs, that fig sketch.
I made it.
Oh, you cross some lines.
I feel like
this guy does fig sketches and he's here trying to talk about the big taboo issues.
When I really was getting in the culture.
No, but what I mean.
The way he said.
Have you ever gigged in like I don't know, like fucking Brussels or something, or like Amsterdam? Yeah. What I don't mean like coming out with the paper on like a new material night after you've like spent 10 years as a good comedian anyway. Like you're good at comedy. You're trying to work out some material about like a hot button issue that everybody's talking about. You're trying to work out what you want to say about it and how you want to phrase it. I mean, I'm talking about some like random cunt from the countryside in Belgium walking out for their first ever gig and saying the most insanely offensive thing you've ever heard with no punchline. Just because they think that's what, you know what I mean.
I watched an open micer one time.
Listen, I love Belgium. Shout out to all my Belgians out there. But I did have a Belgian comedian come up to me and my girlfriend, who are both bi, and ask us if the LGBTs were ruining comedy in England as well. This is what I mean by this. Exactly. I was like, we're the wrong audience for this, my friend.
But he's also, that guy is, I'm going to assume, is online to him. That's like the thing when we talk about this stuff in comedy. It's like, sorry, I don't just want to say comedy because it just makes it very finite, but like the culture war shit in general is like people adopt it in the argument. Like I hear people who aren't professional within the job we are in, a stand-up, complain about it, and it's like, no, bro, that's not what's stopping you. You're at this stage where it's hard, where it's difficult, and you know, if you're going to complain about diversity and stuff at a certain level, I might hear you out of what you've got to say, but you're not at the level yet where you can complain like about certain things within the industry or about certain values that I have. And when I say I'll hear them out, I'll listen to their point.
Sure.
But like when it's like, bro, you're not doing all the clubs. Like you haven't got any right to fucking join in this argument.
In my subjective experience, I mean, you know, when you do comedy and stuff, or you tell somebody that you
I love that
comedy.
you turn to him when you say that.
I just wanted to, you know, I'm
whatever you do is what
yeah, whatever fucking weird shit you do.
You have to understand, I'm incredibly zonked in the head. I've been trying to count how many times I've turned to each of you to make sure it's equal for this whole recording. That's cool. I have an OCD, my brother.
I'm playing with this sugar.
I fucking you know when like you used to tell people you do comedy and people would say like, "Oh, tell us a joke" or something, or tell you about a gig they went to. They're like, I have so many more people recently saying stuff like, "Oh, I heard you can't say anything anymore," and I'm like, no, that's not the case. As long as you're not like, as long as you people aren't stupid. Do you know what I mean? People can tell when you are in good faith trying to engage with something, make people laugh in a non-harmful way, and speak again skillfully about a delicate issue, versus when you are just being a bigot. People aren't dumb. People can tell. And like in my experience, everybody who complains about culture war shit, including this one Belgian guy. Listen, I don't know why I'm atting him so much on this podcast. The people who complain about culture war stuff holding them back, and the people who are dog shit at stand-up comedy, that Venn diagram is a complete circle.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Everybody I've ever spoken to who has said this is happening, the culture this has also fucking stank. They've been dog. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you're getting a lot of rich legends complaining about it. Maybe because they've got nothing else to talk about.
I think it's.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think about the rich legend. I'm a rich legend.
They're in the feedback loop.
Somebody thinking a rich legend.
Yeah, man. You got like Chappelle and you know a few other comics. They've been going on that lane of just like their special will be about responding to things people said about their last special. Yeah,
this is it. Like, but the more you engage with it, the more you indulge in it and indulge yourself, the worse his stuff has become.
Yeah,
it sucks. Like, until he's releasing 10-minute YouTube videos, they're just like fucking unpassable rants about like myths about trans people with no jokes, maybe anything, and loads of fucking cunts in MAGA hats in the crowd. You know what I mean? That's not that's not the Dave Chappelle that we all grew up loving. They're two different comics.
I think here's my take on that. I think what happened, I enjoyed all of his last specials, right? I think what he did was good, and I think what everyone has done as an imitation since has been bad, because I think they've seen it work for him. So then when you have like Ricky Gervais go, I'm going to go do a special about trans people, it's like, okay, but Dave Chappelle has at least done the clubs for 40 fucking years and has some sense of how to pace and do a joke, whereas you're just going ha ha ha, trans people, isn't this funny? You're not actually making. I think the bit in his special, The Closer, about his friend who was transsexual who killed themselves was actually a very good, poignant bit. And if people had slightly, and you know, people don't, if people had slightly listened a bit more to it and people would like to have their opinions, I think that's actually a good routine.
Well, I didn't watch the most recent one, but I did see a lot of people talking about it. Like, I saw a lot of trans people talking about it, and I need to check, but like, I saw a lot of trans people like disputing his version of events about that trans person's death and stuff, and like it's just really strange. I think that I just think it's, especially with the way things are for groups, like, you're completely right about Gervais and stuff. It's like someone who has like fucking cold soup between their ears, who sees everything that's going on and just tries to like completely no critical thinking jump on that wave
bandwagon.
While with everything that's happening to trans people right now, you know,
I would say, like, you remember Chappelle's comeback specials in like 2016?
Yeah, the first one.
Those ones were interesting in terms of, I saw that as a guy in his late 40s trying to figure it out for the first time, and he wasn't trying to be correct. He was just trying to say how he felt about it. And this whole, I know it was clunky, but comparing it to like black civil rights, like, how are these guys getting rights before us? And I know it's kind of like erasing this bunch of black trans people, but I just felt that one was interesting to me in terms of, this is a guy just trying to figure it out. I thought that was interesting to watch. And then later on, it's become just a feedback loop of just
exactly. This is the interesting thing that we were just talking about, right? So what happens is, it's kind of like Dapper Laughs. It's exactly the same thing as what happened to fucking Graham Linehan. Like, what
friend of the show. friend of my stand-up. So I borrowed that from Tim Dillon. But fan of my stand-up, big supporter of the podcast.
He hates you, doesn't he?
You know, when it's so mad, I saw this thing, a screenshot that someone posted from 10 years ago, the first time that someone was like, "Hey Graham, this, you know, I'm trans, and this IT crowd joke was transphobic or whatever," and he goes, "Oh, my bad, sorry, won't do it again. You know, it's just a one-off joke, not precious to me." And then, but like, it's the same thing with Chappelle. He goes up, he tries to work something out, and a few people go, "Hey, that's not really how it works." And instead of going, "Oh, fine, whatever," like, how different everything would be, you know, for him and whatever, and like the whole culture as well. If he just went, "Yeah, sure, fine," instead of going, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
Here's now the next 10 years is all about how
it's all become all consuming. It's come 2-minute bit to come 10-minute bit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a whole special.
It's fucking crazy. Like, it's like in a video game when you got two decision trees that you can go down or whatever. It's just mad thinking about how different the culture would be for all sorts of different groups of people. If like one or two people, it's like always, every time, it's just something really innocuous like that. I think that's the mark of, you know, be able for people to say like, "Oh, you know, this maybe you're wrong or maybe not about this or whatever," and go like, "Oh, fine, whatever."
Takes a lot of humility.
Yeah, exactly.
My bad.
Exactly.
But then I ask myself, like, because sometimes I play the bigot and sometimes I do that. But like, I do like to do it in a way where it's like, I am fucking about.
Right.
Like, I'm not, like, it's kind of like, wouldn't it be funny if this was my opinion? Like, how ridiculous would it be if this was my opinion? You know, I think I've like, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's quite bad?
Are you trying to have your cake and eat it?
I don't know. I think I'm probably young and enjoy being a bit of an arsehole, and that's probably like what you're like at 26. And then as you get older, you'll mature.
I think it's just I don't think that you can be prescriptive about these things. I think it's on a routine by routine basis. I also think that there are some people where you can kind of preempt it a little bit and get a better idea of what something's going to be like based on just hearing about it first, just based on their track record. So, for example, like if you hear nowadays in 2023 the phrase Ricky Gervais or Dave Chappelle was just put out another routine about trans people, I kind of know what it's going to be about before I listen to it. Do you know what I mean? Where you're like, oh fuck, okay, you know, but I think, like I said, there's no I don't think that like the irony is like I don't think that there is nothing that you can't joke about, but I also just think that good comics pick their battles, you know. Like there's
cyclists.
Exactly. That's a good one. I fucking hate these cunts, man.
Bro, did you wait till, don't say that. They will abuse you.
Fuck them, man. Like, I don't get, like, I don't, if 4 times a day, I'm crossing the street on a green man and like a 50-year-old guy who works for Deloitte in fucking Tour de France cosplay nearly kills me by running through a red.
But they have to deal with cars.
No one talks about how cyclists pedestrians.
They think they are the underdogs of the road. It's unbelievable. But yeah, I don't think there's anything that anybody can't joke about. I think that like it's really weird when like I've just always found it really strange when people are like, you know, when there's fucking some contentious thing about any routine that any comic does, and they're just like, I would always find it just easier to just go like, oh, fair enough. Like, I can write other good stuff. I know I can. I've got 5 hours of material. If this one new idea isn't like working for some people, or some people say maybe this doesn't come across. I mean, that happens all the time in comedy in all sorts of different ways. Like, I will do a new routine about when I'm talking to my mates, doing new material nights. I'll do a new routine about fucking, I don't know, the chairs, and someone will go, actually, this doesn't come across the way you think it comes across, and thus the routine doesn't really work. And I'll say, okay, I'll drop the chair bit. But when it's anything culture war, people just double down. Nobody ever goes, oh, I'll drop that bit then because I can't articulate it, or it doesn't work well enough, it's not getting enough laughs or whatever. It's weird.
It depends. Like, if it's an expert on chairs, I'd be like, all right, you know what?
Exactly, that's the thing, yeah.
But is it okay as well? Because this is always my side. Is it okay to be like, I'm in the wrong here? Or like, I know this is just my opinion on something. So like a lot of the times with quote unquote the culture war stuff, I think it's quite funny to be like, I don't really give a fuck. Like, do you know what I mean? And be like, well, that's not a bad place to start, but I don't give a shit enough.
So much of comedy at its base level is just adversarial, right? Like the whole point of like so many great routines and great bits that people love throughout history are you taking a contrary stance about something and being ridiculous about it, right? And winning the audience around to your side. In the last maybe 5 or 10 years, all of that has really been talked about in terms of, you know, so-called culture war issues, whatever. But it's not like it's everything forever, and it always has been. It's like comedy's always been. Spoken comedy has always been about like saying naughty stuff or saying something that is a bit like you wouldn't say it, and sort of winning and people coming around to you. Like, I mean, it's not all what it's all about, obviously, but there's so much of comedy is like is being a bit contrary, because it's like to make people laugh, you have to subvert expectations. That's it. Like, that's what a punchline is. You laugh. It's a mechanical response when something doesn't go the way that when you get relief from something not going the way you thought it was going, you know. So it's just there's 1,000 micro like kind of subversions in every routine and in every hour of comedy, but people are only really sort of talking about, you know, when fucking Ricky Gervais talks about some shit or whatever, you know.
Do you what would you say, because your dad's a stand-up comedian as well,
yes.
right? Like same as mine, and what have you inherited from him, and what do you also, as the landscape has changed, look at him and be like, you don't know what you're talking about? Because you get that you don't know what you're talking about moment if you ever talk comedy with your dad when you comment on stuff, because I have that with my dad all the time. I
mean like style wise, not much, I don't think. I sort of what I got from him and my mum, because my mum's a stage manager too.
Of course,
everyone sleeps on my mum. No, that's
so weird.
I don't want to touch that.
No, because everyone's like, "Oh, you're the dad works in the industry." I'm like, "No, my mum, you know, my mum." That was everyone said something like, "Yeah, cut that." No, it was my mum basically mainly through whom I learned about comedy. One of the sort of advantages that you're afforded through having a parent in the same industry that you're in is that things just they seem so much more accessible to you.
That's what I've always said.
So like,
you know, it's a viable career.
Oh yeah, exactly, and not just a viable career, but like I speak to so many people who are like, "Oh, how did you start stand-up?" I wouldn't even know how to start. Yeah. I've just known about the comedy circuit, and that it's something anybody can do at any time from like a young age, because my mum used to take me to work. As simple as like I used to go to the Edinburgh Fringe when I was a kid because my mum couldn't leave me at home, and my mum would take me to the Edinburgh Fringe, and I'd go fucking Games Workshop or something during the day, you know. But I think just mainly the things are kind of different. My dad doesn't really do as much stand-up these days. But like, I think mainly just like sort of general awareness, kind of that feeling of like, kind of accessibility, like the idea that it can be like in terms of like, kind of more sort of harder to define stuff, like in terms of style and attitude changes across the years. I don't really have much because we don't really talk in a granular way about that stuff. Like my experience of when my dad did stand up when he was my age, he started when he was my age, but I've been doing it for about just under 10 years or whatever. My kind of view on what it was like for him only comes from like a handful of old black and white photographs that he showed me and a couple of stories he's told me about gigs he's done. We never talked about it in that in depth of a way. Like when I was we just haven't. I mean, like
you've got something to talk about, whereas me and my dad don't. It's that in Crystal Palace.
No, yeah, it's just Palace for me, man. No, it's just like my dad wasn't like, not in a slam way or anything. My dad wasn't really like gigging when I was a kid. I didn't think of him as a comedian until I was older, because he just wasn't gigging that much. When I was born, he sort of started doing more like, he does like a bit of football journalism and stuff like that, and that's mainly what I would consider him as, and writing and stuff, and that's what I would mainly consider him as growing up. Tangential to comedy, sure, but when like he'd maybe done like a few gigs. It's not like he's on the circuit all the time. He's not touring and shit. Do you know what I mean?
Do you guys ever seek your dad's approval?
I didn't tell him. I didn't tell him when I started.
Oh, you didn't tell him?
Fucking, like obviously as any comic does, but at the same time, like now when I speak to my dad about stand up, he's so far removed from the circuit. He's so far removed from the industry that he a lot of the time he doesn't know what he's sort of talking about.
Oh really?
Yeah, he'll be like, "Have you seen this thing, Instagram?" Yes. Like it's like, yeah. I'm aware of it. Oh right, and right, if you do this and it, oh right, and have you seen that they've blown up on Insta? And I'm like, yes. And he can't fathom podcast. He doesn't quite understand what it is in terms of like numbers, and because my Radio 4 show gets more than I'm like, because it's on Radio 4 and there's this finite amount of spaces, whereas there's an infinite, potentially you could have infinite number of podcasts realistically.
We do.
And so like in terms of industry, it's quite frustrating to talk to someone who you're like, my life lesson from it is like, right, always keep an eye on the game. And my girlfriend Darcy made a very good point one time, controversial comedian Louis C.K. She's like, what's always interesting about Louis C.K. is he's always adapted to technology. So he's always created something that is like, he still uses Instagram, he still uses Twitter. When a new technology is out, he's immediately on it. He's immediately has an understanding of what it is. He's one of the
first to really sell specials directly on his website.
Yeah, and that's like, regardless of what people think of it, like that's like a very
through the prison place.
Yeah. But that sort of and that I think as people get older, they struggle to see that, and also he doesn't have. I just think as people get older, they get a bit more scared by the landscape and try to and I see it with a lot of old, they don't understand the landscape of things.
But I have to stop myself from falling in that trap. Just from being 10 years in, I have to realise I'm not actually an old man. I'm 27. This is my.
We're young, yeah. This is our generation, yeah.
Look at these youngsters only 4 years in doing this. And it's like, but why not though?
I've realised just we're talking. I think the most important thing I've learned is from my mum, and it's like how to financially survive being a freelancer for 20 plus years, 30 years. That's the most important.
Right, yeah.
How do you do that?
I don't know.
No, I still live at home, bro.
Yeah. It's like that's stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know it can be done. She works her ass off and stuff like that. I think obviously there's there's lots of other like sort of really minute ways that some of them you don't even really realize the ways in which it probably helps you to know somebody or be connected to somebody in the industry, especially a close relationship like like a parent or whatever. I would meet people who like knew who my mum was because she'd stage managed a gig they'd done 10 years ago or whatever when they met me.
And it creates a personal relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that really helps.
I feel weird about it though because it's not like, it's not like you. It's kind of like, how do you know my mum? Do you know what I mean? You freak. What are you talking about?
I know what you mean, but
go away.
It's weird that we're not really thrown much into the Nepo baby conversation. I don't know what that says about
I'm throwing
under the radar.
Yeah, under the radar.
Yeah, throw us in next time they have it.
But we're quite open about it. Like we're not, there's other people, and it's our parents were comics or comics and stage managers and stuff. There's people in comedy and they create good stuff, but then it turns out their parents like a massive producer or owns a media company, and you're like, oh, that's a very different kind of nepotism.
They never mention it.
This is the most Nepo baby thing ever. Is why you're not the worst kind of Nepo baby.
But I've always been open about it.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean,
there's no point lying.
I've been offered opportunities to work specifically because of who my dad is, and I've turned them down every time.
I'll take them.
All right. But for me, I have so much career anxiety about just about like myself and stuff. I just don't want to encourage it.
Right, let's get into the philosophy of this, right? What is wrong with taking opportunities that your parents worked hard so you could have opportunities?
Absolutely.
That's the whole point of them.
Absolutely nothing wrong with it.
Are you not spitting in the face of working class people by not taking opportunities, people less opportunities?
No. So I'll give you an example of one of the ones that I'm talking about. There was a TV show where you had to go on in pairs, right? I auditioned for it because a good friend of mine who was more well known than me asked for me to be in her pair, and we auditioned for it. She got on the show, and the producer said to me, "We really like you, but you're not big enough. But we heard your dad is a comedian and stuff, so you can come on if you come on together."
I see.
It wasn't like it's like, come work at dad's company, he's worked really hard and he wants to give you a leg up. It was like neither of us would have been able to do it on my own.
Right.
They only wanted to be able to sell a story for the show. And my dad as well, to be fair, didn't want that. He was like, I haven't got this myself. This is embarrassing to be only on a show that my son's got me on.
Both me and my dad did roast battles.
Oh, it was, it was roast battle, sorry. It was roast battle. Yeah, sorry. I didn't want you to think that I was like slagging you off directly. I didn't want you to think I was slagging you directly.
How much? Father!
That was the hardest thing.
Father, they want us to call each other cunts on television.
The hardest thing was I found out how much money it was after I turned it down.
Oh, yeah, no, that paid off my fringe.
I'd like to be able to say that I was like really that I was really like like noble and like found out, even though I knew how much money it was, I turned it down. But I was like, oh man, we really needed that money.
To be fair, me and my dad neither of us auditioned for it. We were on the first season of that when it wasn't auditions. They just got people in pairs. If you actually look at some of the pairings of that, it's not who's friends, it's who's been on panel shows with each other.
Right.
A lot of it. And the first season was incredible because you go in for this meeting with them with your jokes and you think they're going to look through your jokes and go, no, absolutely not. And they were like, can we find a way to make this 10 times worse? And it was like, yeah.
It's weird, yeah.
It's weird, but it was a lot of fun. It was actually a really fun, cool experience to do with my dad. It was one of the favourite things I've done in this job. It was
bonding.
Yeah, it was cool. And then you're there and there's like all these jokes. It's fucking cool. And then I did a couple of the live shows when they were doing it, and it was one of those things where it came too successful for what it was, and then suddenly Comedy Central were like, can you not joke about it AIDS? Because the Viacom, who own Comedy Central, are patrons.
They created.
Yeah, are patrons of a HIV charity.
Oh, yeah.
So it looks really bad on them. But then it's like, you can joke about cancer because they're not paying that, so fuck that.
Yeah.
Thing. And that's when something like that falls apart. Because you're like, well, the whole point of it is you've got to go after everything here. And so then it sort of fell apart a little bit, which was a shame because that was when Comedy Central looked like they were going to do some really cool stuff.
Do bits in this country,
and then now they just post friends gifts.
Well, I think the
How did you not bag a travel show with your dad? So man,
we got offered one.
Yeah,
really?
We were in a.
They gave it to Jack Whitehall and his dad.
Yeah, basically. We went for several meetings. It got to like filming Tester stage, and I didn't want to do it, nor did my dad. To be fair,
why not?
Because it was nothing neither of us wanted to do, and we thought it was after Ramesh did his.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really comedy related either.
It's not really comedy related. Ramesh did Asian Provocateur, and it was like a huge success.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone was like, we need to do a show featuring comedians and their parents, whereas him and his mum's relationship actually seemed quite genuine. And they were like, right. And so we went for this meeting, and they wanted us to go like deep into the fucking Amazonian jungle. Bro, they basically wanted us to do Heart of Darkness. Like they wanted us to fucking go into the jungle. And I was going like, look, I'm not going into the fucking middle of the Amazon.
Sure.
I want to go a briefer.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, the show was meant to be based on like.
Yeah, I want to go to fucking Manual Way.
Yeah. The things people wanted to do was like based on us, like, and manhood. And then, so it was like one of them, we had to go fucking stick our hand in his gauntlet of fire ants in like the Amazon, and we were like, we're not going to do
masculinity.
that. But then the whole time we were like doing it, me and my dad were going, we'll go to another meeting, because you gotta remember, I was like 3 years into my career. I was making fuck all money, man. And if someone went to me like, here's 40 grand and you've just got to walk around with your dad,
absolutely,
man, I'd have fucking done it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it now, because I have enough, sort of like you have, like self-respect to be like, I think this is a shit idea and we're just copying everyone else.
Right.
But at that point in my career, man, you offer me 40k to walk around and do that? Fucking yeah, I'd have done it.
I mean, this is when I was young, I remember it being and I was I did one in a couple of competitions and stuff like that, like the open mic stuff. And when I started talking to people, like production companies and PRs and stuff, they were like, you should rinse this relationship between you and your dad. I didn't really feel like it, because I think he's great, but it's not like he wasn't really like present in the, and I feel grubby like doing it. I know that there are incontrovertibly advantages that have probably been afforded to me. Like I said, ones that I don't even realize I have sometimes through having parents in the industry. But I also feel like you can kind of so much of this industry at the moment is down to proximity and luck and geographical proximity as well. Me and my girlfriend talked about moving out of London during the pandemic, and I said, good in theory, but in reality it would completely fuck my career.
Career suicide.
And also stuff like, I see my career quite holistically as well. I think there's lots yet to be done. I think there are lots of things that have gone my way, not because I've got parents in the industry, and there are lots of things that haven't gone my way despite it. But also stuff like, sometimes I haven't grafted, like the video with Paddy. We knocked off a 90-second video in his living room over the course of an afternoon in December, and it's been by far and away the most useful thing for my career. That like people who I spent 3 Edinburgh festivals trying to get into my show to see me were DMing me themselves on Instagram after that video.
Wow.
But like, and it was pure luck that it caught the algorithm. And
you make your own luck.
This
you decided to do it. Like,
you bought that tripod.
And,
I see that it's not like I do comedy for 8-9 years and then I get lucky. It's like it all exists because of everything,
And do you ever see it as like, thank God you've done it for that 8-9 years to then get to a level of success where you can back it up? Whereas you could end up, if that happened 2 years in, you can easily end up in Dapper Laugh situation.
Yeah, I feel
not the same line that he would have used.
Sure. It's very difficult to imagine your life having gone any other way. I feel in general, you know, I sort of don't really see my career as separate from the rest of my life, and I think in general, you know, I live in Britain in the 21st century. I've lived a pretty charmed life, and some bad stuff has happened, but bad stuff happens to everybody, you know. And I just keep my head down and thank God and myself for all my success, and keep trying to get some more, you know. I'm in my head. In my head. One sec, hang on. In my head, I'm many things, but above all, I'm a bank securer.
He landed.
At all times, that's what my mind is on. I think deeply about how to get the bag.
How obsessed are you guys genuinely with money?
Very.
Very.
Yeah.
Especially since the pandemic.
Yeah, I want to make. I've been fucking broke before.
Yeah.
And not like starving. I'm not going to die on the street. But I would like some comforts in life. I would also like. I fucking put a lot. Like you had. I come from a thing. I've put time and effort into this job, and I want to see some sort of financial reward of security. I also want to treat the people who've stood by me through all of this to some sort of thing to show that it's been worthwhile.
I just need 200 mil, man.
Okay,
that's what I think. 200 mil would be
If I make, bro, I need to do a lot more with my dad. Like, we got to start OnlyFans.
Do you know, like, when Breaking Bad, Walter White, he was like, all I need is 752,000.
Yeah.
And then he had like 80 mil in barrels.
I think
that's gonna be like me.
That's gonna be me for real. I think it's just like, I also know that during the pandemic, not only did all the money go away, but like loads of other really big stuff happened that kind of makes you realize that, like,
your career got taken away, man.
Your career got taken away. There was like family stuff, and you kind of go like, it would just be nice for everything bad and good that happens to be able to happen with comfort.
Yes.
I think we're in a very lucky position that we're even like, we're staring that down, you know. We're chasing it.
It's 1:45 cool. On a Monday.
I'm lucky.
We're lucky dudes, man.
In a different life, I would be on my lunch break, a job I despised right now, and that has been me in the past many times, you know. So yeah, it's just about I think about money a lot more than like a lot.
Yeah, for me, like the money, like you said, it relates to comfort. It relates to be able to, you know, give myself and family members breathing space.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So once I get that 200 mil, I think.
How much is the black tax taken of that 200?
Boy, the thing about black tax is the more people know you have, the more they need. Do you know what I mean? So like, let's say I have a cousin who wants a mixtape off the ground. Now he needs a studio with 24/7 air conditioning and bodyguards out. You never heard of the black tax?
No, I have. I saw the clip from your podcast.
Yeah. So, but like, that's the thing.
See, we're educated.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, the more you have, the more that they need from you, and the more that everyone feels entitled to.
What point do you reckon you'd be called a traitor, like Chris Rock's been called?
Ooh, what, in terms of financially?
In terms of like appeasing the white man.
No, but it don't have to be that way.
Doesn't? I thought that's what, like, that happens all the time. Someone gets to a certain level, and then they're like, you know, like famous people probably only hang out with famous people because you've got a level of which that you understand the craziness of you're in.
You can always give back. Look at Mo Gilligan, man. Just from day dot, he was giving back. You know, he did a documentary. You know, he did Black British Takeover.
Mo was the first one that I remember, like, really. Like, he was the trailblazer as far as I'm concerned when it comes to like making your own career and stuff.
Paul Smith, Dapper Laughs.
I think, don't forget Fred and Smash.
If there's a Mount Rushmore of comedy, Dapper Laughs has to be on it.
What?
Whether you like it or not.
What?
Have you heard of Stephen Tries?
Yeah.
He was in my Funny Final.
He's funny.
He was in my Funny Final. Yeah.
I remember him. He was 16 years old.
He was doing
at the comedy
gigs.
Store.
He was there doing gigs, bro.
Store. And I was like, oh, man, you're really good, man. It's like, yeah, I might not do this for too long. I'm doing YouTube. I'm like, bro, that's stupid.
Yeah, I remember being like, I remember watching him rip So You Think You're Funny Fine. I really liked him. Like, it was the only day I met the kid. It's a kid, he's our age. But like, it was the only day I met the guy. It was at this one gig we did together. He seemed really nice. We got on, you know, similar age and all that. He rips the gig. Talks about how he's going to do YouTube and stuff. I'm like, yeah, great, mate. More fucking open spots for me.
More £130 not paid on time.
Fucking guy. This guy, I was doing open spots at Jongleurs Portsmouth while he was fucking top of the podcast charts and 10 trillion views on YouTube. I also think that the difficult thing with money, just one last thing, is that being in an industry where you're acutely aware that you are kind of you're acutely aware of where your bread is buttered, because by and large you're the person buttering it. Also being aware that your income, its size and its stability is contingent on how famous you are, how early on. Talking about getting TV shows commissioned, people, the wage people are getting is directly tied with how famous they already are, and the opportunities they're getting is tied with that too. It's really hard to, I'm thinking not just about money, but the things that get you money at all times, because it feels like I'm failing and letting myself down if I'm not constantly hustling, which is something I'm always very aware of that I shouldn't.
The true bag is the bag that you get when you're sleeping.
Listen,
and it's money's just generating.
The true bag is the mental bag.
Hey, listen.
Okay.
Don't chase the bag. Let the bag chase you. After they say.
Thoroughly enjoyed this episode.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a lot of fun, man. This was actually quite insightful. Usually,
you don't say actually, because it makes sound you weren't expecting it to be.
I never know. No, I would expect you to be. I just don't. I'm surprised at ourselves. And
yeah, we did.
There we go. This has been B-Tech Philosophers.
Thank you for having me.
Sign up to the Patreon for a very different episode.
Yeah.
For a very different.
The end of that.
If you
caught the end of it. That's good.
Should probably finish that story another time.
Yeah, we need to. We will finish that story on the Patreon rather than wrapping it up very quickly.
What would you like to promote, Ed?
Slime Country podcast.
Very
good. Sunil and Huge.
So very funny comedians, and that's gonna be like a massive. That's gonna be a huge podcast. That's also very cult, I think.
Thanks.
I'm
really
looking
forward to when we're really famous from it.
Yeah.
Basically, we read out dirty fan fiction that we find on Wattpad and archive of our own in the internet and stuff.
Episode 4, I was in tears at when you call a witch doctor.
Oh yeah, we called a witch doctor live on the podcast because Huge has shingles and he also has insomnia, but his ex-girlfriend is also a witch. So we were like, we think he might have been cursed. Anyway, we called up this witch doctor, and he was clearly like in his car. So you could hear like horns honking in the background. And he was like, "That's going to be £500 to cure your shingles." He's like honking the horn.
I love it. Yeah, he's like doing the weekly shop.
It was so funny.
So funny.
It was so good.
So Slime Country.
Yeah, Slime Country podcast.
Check that out. I will be posting my Edinburgh Fringe show. Will be on sale soon.
You going up?
No.
And we will also have a live show. We can't announce it yet because some guy on an email told me not to. Not even
second week in a row we've announced.
Not even mention it. But it's fucking. Look, it's in November. All right, it's on.
Do you smoke cigarettes?
Yeah, I'd love one.
November.
No, I'll just go. November 7th. We can't put the tickets out yet, but we'll fucking. What's he gonna do? Take it away?
Yeah,
maybe.
All right. Well, yeah. Okay. Forget I said that. This has been B-Tech Philosophers.
Next week, guys.
Bonsoir.